All right. Hey, Vikings fans, welcome in to another episode of the Skol Hop. I'm Evan.
And I'm Austin.
We're just a couple of dudes from Iowa. We like drinking beer, talking about the Vikings.
Yeah, and we got episode 59 this week.
59.
This week, we got hit pretty hard with the Purple Punishment segment.
Yeah.
But then we kind of recapped the Iowa Podcast Awards last week. That was pretty fun.
That was a lot of fun. And what was more fun, podcast awards were fun for sure, but man, we got to recap absolute drubbing by the Vikings.
Yeah,
34-7 over the Texans. It was awesome.
That was amazing. And definitely we looked ahead to we'll look ahead to the Packer game this coming week. And finish it off with what did we talk about? What did we finish it off with?
You're gonna ask me some kind of tough questions about hey, if Sam Darnold ends up being good, what do the Vikings do long term? Do they keep JJ McCarthy? You kind of put me in a tough spot.
Yeah.
It was a difficult question to answer for sure.
And I pay off on what I didn't pay off for the Purple Punishments last week in episode 58. So all that's coming up ahead. I can't wait. Let's go.
Skol.
Skol.
All right, before we get started today, we just wanted to give a quick shout out to Big Top Ventures. If you're looking to take vacation to Mexico or Jamaica, send them an email. We'll put it right down here, bigtopventuresllc@gmail.com. Send them an email and they will hook you up with the best rates possible for all-inclusive resorts in either Mexico or Jamaica. So step right up to your next big adventure and take a trip with Big Top Ventures.
Yeah, thanks, Big Top Ventures. All right, last week we unveiled it. We did the first week of our Purple Punishment segment, and it was a lot of fun. I think the people at the Iowa Podcast Awards where we recorded it had some fun. It was pointed out very fairly that I owe, 13 push-ups?
I think 13 is the official number.
Because we couldn't say the word Vikings last week because we both predicted a Vikings loss to the 49ers. The Wheel of Purple Punishments dictated that we had to do 10 push-ups each time we said Vikings, which was pretty funny. You blew it like 10 seconds in.
Oh my gosh, that was so embarrassing.
I waited a few minutes, but we still both did, 30, 40 push-ups each. I said Vikings twice at one point, but only on one point did 10 push-ups for one. So it was pointed out by a YouTube commenter that I still owe 10. And it was pointed out by another commenter, and maybe even me during the episode last week, that at one point I only did 7 push-ups instead of the full 10. So I owe 13, which we will add that in maybe at the beginning of the episode, the end somewhere. You will see me do the extra 13 push-ups. I don't know why you would want to, but I'll do it. I'll own up to it.
we'll splice that in. We gotta move cameras around and stuff so that we can actually get footage of your 13 that you're making up.
So keep your eyes peeled, and that may even show up especially on TikTok or something. But all that to say, right now it's time for Purple Punishments.
We gotta spin it again, man. We gotta do it because we both picked the Vikings to lose
against the Texans.
They won.
And
They didn't just win.
Beat the Texans. It wasn't a nail biter. It wasn't a lucky win. And we'll talk about all this here coming up. But man, they beat the Texans. And I couldn't be more happy to have to spin this wheel. We're mostly prepared for everything on the wheel. It'll be exciting. Evan, whenever you're ready, spin that wheel.
Are you sure we want to do this?
No, but I hope it's something spicy or something. I don't know.
Here we go.
Oh, I forgot about the sound effects. What's it going to say? Okay, so for our listeners, if you want to watch this whole excitement go down, check us out. You can watch it on Spotify and definitely on YouTube. And we always clip stuff out anyways, too, on YouTube and stuff. But even TikTok, you can watch the whole episode. But I digress. Our punishment this week, you can see Evan putting it on right now. We have to wear socks on our hands for the entire episode.
I got to take my watch off.
Oh, yeah. All right. But Evan, I brought some regular, old tube socks. You got the cool Viking socks. We're definitely rocking socks in style.
Skol.
So it'll be the whole episode. So
I can't work my computer.
No.
Hang on. I need to do at least one thing here. This is not good.
Oh man, do you have a mouse or something that you can plug in? Because you might have to do that.
I might have to do that.
You usually just do the trackpad. All right, my hands are going to get warm.
Yes.
And we're both rocking the Viking socks on our hands. And we haven't opened our beers. We haven't done anything else for this episode yet. So this will be interesting.
This is going to be really interesting. Well, you brought the beer today.
I did.
But we actually went to this brewery while we were in Cedar Rapids for the podcast awards.
Yeah.
It was a pretty good experience.
Yeah, I enjoyed it. When we walked in, there was another group in there, but it was a Sunday afternoon. Football, 3 o'clock games are on.
Yep.
That other group left pretty quick. We sat up at the bar, and the bartender was really cool. He was a 49ers fan.
Unfortunately for him.
But he was really cool. I forget his name. I feel bad. If you happen to be watching, let us know what your name was. You're pretty sweet. Yeah, it was a good time. I enjoyed it, and we decided to get a 6-pack for a future episode, which ended up being this one. I'm excited to see how we open these cans.
Yeah, so we ended up with the Eagle Amber Lager from Iowa Brewing Company, based out of Cedar Rapids. Amber Lager, which is definitely something up my alley for sure. But
I think drop this can.
I think we both tried this beer while we were there.
I think so, yeah.
I may have had a glass or two. I can't remember.
But the bartender was giving us a few samples here and there, so I don't remember everything he let us try.
Yeah, I can't remember what I actually had and what I sampled, but everything I had there was really, really good. So we need to crack these open as best we can.
Yeah.
Oh, I got it.
Oh no, I might have to have you help me.
But I got beer all over my thumb.
There you go.
Oh, you got it too.
Oh no! I thought my beer was going to explode there for a second. If you just tuned in, or if you're just now watching on the beer segment that we're putting out on YouTube, purple punishments this week. We both predicted a Vikings loss to the Texans. They won. We spun the wheel of purple punishments, and now we have to wear socks in our hands for episode 59 of the Skol Hop. Yeah, Evan, I almost dropped this can a couple of times before I opened it with these socks on. You're actually doing a really good pour right there.
That's a classic Austin pour, mostly head. But
I'm terrified of starting it. Okay, all right.
You just gotta go for it.
Gotta go for it. Okay. This is hilarious. My kids will think this is the funniest thing ever.
I'm just gonna open another one, I think.
While we're in it.
While we're here, and then we just hopefully won't have to do this again for a while.
So again, these are the Amber Lager, Eagle Amber Lager from the Iowa Brewing Company in Cedar Rapids. I don't know if they have other locations there. That place is really cool. I like that brewery a lot.
Cool environment.
Yeah, and obviously we had a handful of their beers. They were really cool. I'm going to do the same. I'm going to pour another can to avoid having to pour it again later.
I will say this is somewhat better. It's not way better, but somewhat better than not being able to say the word Vikings on a Vikings podcast.
That was tough. That did make for some comedy, though. If you enjoyed that, let us know.
It was also fun to do that with a live audience.
Yeah.
To kind of laugh along with us as we were doing that.
And we'll kind of recap the Iowa Podcast Awards a little bit later here. But yeah, that was entertaining. And I'm glad that my lack of physical peakness can give people some laughs. That was fun.
All right, well, let's try these beers. We should be able to at least pick up the mug. It's the can that's the tough part.
Yeah, but these socks are making things slippery.
Yes.
This has to be podcast gold right now. Okay, yeah. All right, Skol.
Skol. Yeah, that's delicious. It's a good amber. You can't go wrong with it, in my opinion. So
yeah.
He said it's one of, if I remember right, he said the amber is one of their more popular brews.
Yeah, so. It's pretty clear. It's not crazy hazy or super dark amber. It's definitely an amber. It's got that nice, I don't know, is it a malty flavor? Mm-hmm. Is that how you would describe it? It's definitely like a beer's beer. So it's not trying to do too much. We've had a few beers recently other than the caramel apple Fandango. But even that, like you said, it was doing too much, but it was doing it well.
In all the right ways.
But yeah, this is a solid amber that just wants to be a solid amber. It hits all the marks. I'm going IPAs, ambers, and maybe sours after that. So I like ambers. this is doing it. This rivals the 5 Cities Crushing on Amber that we tried last week.
Yeah.
Again, thank you 5 Cities for providing the beer last week. But yeah, Iowa Brewing Company. This is really good.
Good stuff. And the only unfortunate thing about it is we have to pour it with socks on our hands. But
watch this be the first like beer review video that we get to go viral, and people are like, "What are you doing with the socks?
Why are you pouring a beer with socks on your hands?"
This is what we do here at the Skol Hop.
Ooh, yeah.
There it is. All right, man. That was fun. I'm looking forward to the end of this episode when we can take these socks off. But we got a whole episode to go. We just started.
My hands are already sweating.
I feel like Ricky Bobby. I don't know what to do with my hands. They are warm.
All right. We should probably start by doing a quick recap of the podcast awards. That's where we were last week. Episode 58. We recorded live on set there at the Iowa Podcast Awards. That was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
What was your favorite part of that experience?
Just the whole day. I loved meeting people. I think I said, excuse me. Oh man, I'm burping. Excuse me. I think I said it on last week's episode. I was surprised to learn that at the time there's like 600 Iowa-based podcasts. And while not all 600 were there at the Iowa Podcast Awards, there were quite a few, and especially at the award ceremony in the evening. But during the day, we got to like interact with a few other podcast hosts. I think we've mentioned it before. The guys from the K Love You Bye podcast, they're in like northwestern Iowa.
I want to say northwestern Iowa.
Yeah. Jeremy is the only name I remember because he sat with us for a little while watching the Vikings game. Those guys were really cool. They sat and they were the only ones to sit and watch our entire live podcast. That was really cool. And they even mentioned us. They released an episode on their podcast today or something recapping the Iowa Podcast Awards. They kind of talked about us for a few minutes, which thanks, guys.
Yeah.
You were very complimentative, whatever that word is. You know what I'm trying to say.
Complimentary is what you're looking for.
Yeah, I had fun meeting those guys, the guys from the Mainstream podcast. What other podcasts? All Good Stories.
All Good Stories. Yep.
Yeah.
I've got a good friend, Chris, that's one of the 2 guys on that podcast. So it was fun to hang out with him for a little bit.
I actually since then checked out the first episode of their podcast talking about Moana. It was pretty good. They do a good job. And really all of them do a great job. The whole show, the awards ceremony. Yeah, we didn't end up winning anything, but we didn't really expect to. It was just a lot of fun. Also, shout out to the Washed Up Walk-Ons for winning Best Sports Podcast. Once I heard they were a competitor in the sports category, I knew for sure they were going to win it, which they deserve to. They did a good job. But yeah, Evan, what was your favorite part about that whole experience?
Honestly, I think recording live was my favorite part. Of course, I loved networking with all these other Iowa podcast creators as well. We had a great experience that way. Met a lot of really cool people, but I learned a few things just kind of as our kind of technical guy here, doing most of the production and recording and all that. It was fun to use some different equipment and fun to just see a studio set up for that purpose, and definitely was inspired by a lot of that. So
yeah,
that was cool. And the experience of just being there and recording our episode it was a lot of fun. I enjoyed it.
Yeah, we had a conversation afterwards about the audio recording equipment, and we looked up what it would cost for us to purchase, maybe not identically, but similar equipment, and it would be a significant amount of time for our Big Top Ventures sponsorship to add up to what it would cost to buy that equipment. But until we get there, I think we got a pretty good setup going.
We're not ashamed of being a budget friendly podcast.
Yeah.
And it's been fun for us to get started on pretty much nothing. Like I had a lot of this equipment just sitting around, and we've just kind of pieced things together as we go. So anyways, all of that to say, Iowa Podcast Awards, it was a really good time. I think we both enjoyed it. I was extremely tired when I got home.
Me too.
I'm very glad I took the day off of work the next day to just like sleep in and recover a little bit. But I would go back next year.
I would love to. I think if they invite us back to do another live episode, I'd be up for that 100%. I'd love if we got the chance to be nominated for stuff again. It was the first annual, so hopefully they keep it going because they did a really good job with that performance and the whole show all together. It was great.
Yeah, lots of fun. Well, the reason we spun the wheel, the reason we're wearing socks on our hands right now Skol,
The most muted high five we've ever had.
is because our Minnesota Vikings demolished
Kicked the living crap out of the Houston
the
Texans.
Houston Texans. It was such a good game. We both preseason picked that this game would be a loss for the Vikings, and that was the impetus for spinning the wheel. That's why we're wearing socks on our hands. But I will take it because the Vikings are 3-0, man.
3-0. Who'd have thunk? Neither of us thought.
No, I had them at 1-2.
We're pretty public with what our predictions were. We both had them at 1-2, and I couldn't be happier to be wrong. I also couldn't be happier to have a lot of people be wrong about Sam Darnold. He's lighting it up. He is looking great. He is definitely feeding into the narrative that this Vikings team is the best chance he's ever had to be a starter on a good team with good weapons. And the Vikings don't even have all of the best weapons available. You're still missing Addison pretty much the whole season and TJ Hawkinson. And they're still looking great. It's so much fun. I'm having a blast. I guess I don't know what else is there to say.
The other thing I think you need to say is this defense is lights out. Like, so they're so good. How many sacks did they have through 3 games?
So they had 5 against the Texans. I'm pretty sure they had 6 against the Niners, and I think it was even still 5 again against the Giants.
So we're sitting at 16 sacks right now through 3 games.
Yeah, I think I saw a stat, and I don't remember the exact stat, but it's something like the Vikings are the first team in
A long time.
a while to start the season with 5 sacks in each of the first 3 games.
I remember the tweet you're referencing, and I don't remember which teams it was. Maybe like an early 2000s Baltimore Ravens team or something, but it was like, it's been 20 years, 25 years
Yeah.
since the Vikings, or any team for that matter, have been that stout on defense. This defense has been a lot of fun to watch, and it's not one guy, it's everybody.
That's the thing. It's kind of been like a different superstar every week. Who was it the first week? Van Ginkel was kind of the guy that was flashing everywhere against the Giants. Even Ivan Pace too. Against the Niners, it was Blake Cashman. He seemed to be everywhere. And then against the Texans, it was who was it? Jonathan Grenard. He was kind of flashing everywhere. He got 3 sacks himself. Yeah. It's just a different guy. It kind of reminds me of like the peak Bill Belichick Patriots days, where like that was more on offense. They would have like a different random like running back get like 150 yards receiving out of nowhere, and then the next week it was another guy getting like at 200 yards rushing. Like, you just never know what the poison's going to be, and it's really exciting to watch.
So we started this last week at the Podcast Awards. Let's continue our Roses and Thorns segment. So rose being something good, a thorn being something bad. What were your roses and thorns this week from the Vikings beating the Texans 34-7?
How about we both do our roses and then both do our thorns? All right.
I'm giving you a thumbs up, but you can't see that.
It's just a mitten we're wearing. My hands are so warm right now.
Yeah, and my forearms are like super itchy.
Yeah, it's exciting. It's definitely a purple punishment.
This is not comfortable.
Anyways, my rose is that every week they're just getting rid of the excuses. The excuse against the Vikings after the Giants game was, the Giants the Vikings beat up on the Giants. The Giants are an awful team. Of course they're going to beat up on that. It'd be weird if they didn't beat up on the Giants. So that's why Stephen A. Smith knocked them down that week. And then the excuse against the Niners was, they don't have Christian McCaffrey.
McCaffrey's injured.
And, it's just one game. It's a fluke. They were at home. Of course they were going to look good. It's not like they dominated. That was the excuse that week. But, 3 in a row now, the Texans are a good team. They're a very good team, and they're still in that point where people are picking them early in the season to be Super Bowl favorites, or at least deep playoff favorites. And what's the excuse? Why did the Vikings suck this week? They didn't, because they demolished 34-7 the Texans, who are a league favorite so far. So my rose is that they're just getting rid of the excuses, and people just have to say, darn it, the Vikings are actually a good team.
Yeah, I think I definitely agree with you 100%. I think the rose for me is that it seems like, I don't want to jinx anything, knock on wood. It seems like the Vikings have been freed from this curse of like being.
Oh no! What did you do, Evan? What did you just do?
But you know what I'm saying, right? And I'm not the first one to say it. It's been said on Twitter and wherever else, after the game yesterday and throughout the day today. Like, even I think our friend of the show, Dustin Baker, has tweeted similar things. Like, we just don't know, as Vikings fans, we don't know what to do with a team like this. And I think being the lifelong Vikings fan that I've been, following this team since the mid-'90s when they went to the playoffs 3 years in a row and went to the NFC Championship twice in 3 years, we don't know what to do with this type of success. And it doesn't seem like there's really anything other than injury or other than something catastrophic standing in the way of the Vikings. Like, it's just everything's there for them. And you mentioned it previously, even with some key injuries, I can't even enunciate the number of things I'm trying to say. Even with Jordan Addison out, with TJ Hawkinson out, with Ivan Pace out this last week, they still found a way to win. And it wasn't just one guy on defense. It was all these guys, and it's been a different guy every week, and it's kind of been the same on offense. Justin Jefferson hasn't blown everybody out of the water with his stat lines. He's had really good games, but it's not been like, oh my gosh, this guy's gonna set the league record for yards or touchdowns or anything. It's pretty germane stats for the most part. He'll pop off a big game at some point. Oh, yeah. We all expect him to do that. And the chemistry that he has with Sam Darnold has been really fun to watch. But I'm getting long-winded. I think my rose is just the fact that it seems like everything's there for the Vikings. Nothing is really standing in the way. Hopefully that stays the same.
Yeah. All right. We have to have some thorns here. I guess my thorn, you mentioned that injuries kind of don't seem like they're going to affect this team, which they've shown they've overcome some decent injuries. But my thorn is the injury scares that we got in this Texans game. For a minute, it just seemed like the breath got taken away from every Vikings fan when there was that bang play where former Viking Danielle Hunter went low on Sam Darnold, and they're really looking at Darnold's knee. Now, I also think the Danielle Hunter play, he's not a dirty player. I think I heard on KFAN this morning that this might have been Danielle Hunter's first roughing the passer penalty, and he's been in the league for almost a decade.
Wow, that's
as
surprising.
A pass rusher.
That's surprising.
Yeah, so whether that's 100% true or not, he's had very few of those. He's not a dirty player, and he immediately, after that play, was like, "Nah, I didn't mean to." He was kind of shoved into him, and it was just kind of a situational play. It just happened to be low on the quarterback. So no booing Danielle Hunter. He's still a good guy, good former Viking. But that was a thorn to maybe have this awesome, amazing season just get deflated again by a huge quarterback injury. And then a little bit later on, Justin Jefferson, he jammed his pinky or something. And after that, of course, he had one pretty awful drop and then one what would have been an amazing catch that he got his hands on that he didn't ultimately catch it. So it's like, oh man, is that pinky bothering him? What's going on? But ultimately, I think those injuries, they came out today and said Darnold's good. There's no structural damage to his knee, just a bruise. And Jefferson, he came back in and played and taped up his finger, and he was fine. So ultimately, it's okay, but that's my thorn. What about you?
Well, before we get to my thorn, another injury that I think is pretty important, but is probably under the radar, is Brian O'Neill. He left the game, and correct me if I'm wrong, I don't think he came back.
I don't know if he did or not.
David Quessenberry took over for him at
right tackle.
Right tackle. I was trying to think of the quarter too.
What quarter? I think it was in the third, maybe
late third or early fourth. I can't remember. But anyways, Brian O'Neill went out too, and I haven't seen or heard an update on him yet today. So that'll be an interesting one to follow, and could be even more of a thorn than a minor something or other to Darnold or Jefferson.
Mm-hmm. The one thing about that is Questenberry last season, he made a couple of starts for Brian O'Neill. As consistent and great O'Neill is, he has had, every season he seems to miss one or two, or there was that one year where he missed quite a few games, but he's not a guaranteed 17-game starter, and that's okay, especially when Questenberry, who's getting up there, he can step in and at least play as well as you need him to. It's not like, oh no, we might as well not have a right tackle out there. So, injuries, we say they're not going to be scary, but they really could be, and it's just lucky that the Vikings have a well-built roster with some quality depth.
Yes, there's a ton of depth, and that's exciting. My thorn would be the kind of the antithesis to the fast start. Vikings scored 14 points right away, boom, boom in the first quarter, and then the second quarter was really hard to watch. There were a ton of penalties. Sam Darnold started to be pressured a lot by the Texans defensive line, started to make some of those kind of silly, like, oh, don't do that type of thing, and fortunately none of that cost the Vikings anything, and the defense was playing so well, the Vikings defense that is, was playing so well that it really didn't matter because the Texans weren't going to put up points anyways. But that was still frustrating to see. Like, you got to think that this Vikings team is built to the point where they can dominate wall to wall, beginning to end, wire to wire, and not have those like really awkward drives where it's penalty ridden, mistake ridden. Even in the fourth quarter, you have those JJ drops. You have Darnold still kind of, making some of those dumb plays where he's trying to force something and he could just chuck it out of bounds or whatever. I don't remember when this one happened, but there was the one little, like, he snapped it and knew the play was busted and he threw it down in front of him, and he was fortunate that he didn't get a grounding call.
Oh, yeah.
I think Jalen Naylor was running a route away from the ball, but he was close enough that they didn't call it for grounding. But anyways, it's those types of things that it's like, man, if we're going to go the distance, if we're going to take this thing to, the divisional round and the NFC Championship game, we gotta fix those things. Those things have to be, they got to be better. We've got to improve those things. KOC, Brian Flores, they've got to work with those guys on how to handle those types of situations. The offensive line has to be more disciplined because I think there were a few false starts in there. Granted, the Texans had like 4 in a row.
They literally had 4 penalties in a row at one point. They were at like 3rd and 4 in field goal range, and then after 4 not even snaps, they were at like 3rd and 19 with like definitely not in field goal range anymore. That was the US Bank Stadium effect.
Yep. So that's my thorn, though, is just the fast start, and then all of a sudden everything just kind of hits a roadblock. And if our defense keeps playing well, that's awesome.
Oh yeah.
But we may not experience that all the time, and the offense has to be sharp, and the offense has to be ready to put up points whenever, not just 14 points in the first quarter and then another 10 points in the third quarter or whatever.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, you mentioned the crap dumb penalties and dumb plays by Bradford. That one where he like backward lateraled it halfway across the field to Powell, and it was just nowhere near him. And Powell had the heads up to like pick it up,
scooped it up,
and he still ended up rushing for like a gain of like 7 yards. That play any other year for the Vikings is like a scoop and score for the defense against the Vikings. Like,
oh yeah, that's one of those things though where it's like stuff like that just doesn't happen to the Vikings, and it happened in all the right ways for the Vikings in that game, which made this game fun to watch. It's made all 3 of these first games really fun to watch.
Yeah, if it means we have to wear socks on our hands every week, I'm here for it. Let's go. I'm sweating.
I'm itchy. I'm sweating. This is better than eating a jalapeno for me, though.
I would have been fine with a jalapeno. This is better than doing push-ups every 5 seconds.
An honorable mention for a Rose, I think, and I don't know, there are probably several others, but the doink in.
Yeah.
You know, talking about things that just like the Vikings just don't experience these kind of like lucky things. Like Will Reichard with a 58-yard field goal, and it doinks off the right upright and it goes in. Like I don't think I've ever seen a field goal that doinks off the upright and goes in.
Yeah, it tells you, it kind of reminds me of the Mighty Ducks, where the coach was like, yeah, when I was a kid, I missed the game-winning goal because it hit the post for the hockey goal or whatever. And one of the kids was like, yeah, but if you were... And he's like, yeah, if I was 1 inch, to the left, it would have gone in. The kid was like, yeah, but if you were 1 inch to the right, it would have been way off. And Will Reichard, he was just enough 1 inch to the left to make that 58-yarder go in.
That was crazy. But good for him. He's got a 58-yarder on his record, and he's perfect.
Yep. And the distance, that specific kicked, he boomed it.
Yeah.
That would have been good from like 68 yards. Yeah, like, I don't know. It would have been good for a while.
It would have been amazing. All right. Well, a lot of really good things and a few not so great things, injuries, just, cleaning up penalties and playing better.
Mm-hmm.
Who would you give game balls to?
All right. So I kind of pre-wrote out my game ball. So I think we're going to do offense, defense, and special teams game balls. Offense, I said it last week, until he throws a bunch of picks and loses a game for the Vikings, as long as Sam Darnold keeps playing and looking the way he has been, doesn't even need to throw for 303 every week. Sam Darnold will get my offensive game ball every week as long as he just looks the way he has. So this week, no different. Sam Darnold, he's my offensive game ball.
Nice. Offense for me. Is that how we're doing this?
Sure.
Offense,
why
offense,
not?
defense. Offense for me, I'm going to go with Jalen Naylor.
Okay.
I feel like Jalen Naylor is the beneficiary of teams giving so much attention to Justin Jefferson, and he is shining in that role, and he is shining in the absence of Jordan Addison.
Yep.
He's definitely stepped into that wide receiver 2 role, and he's played it very well.
Mm-hmm.
And it'll be tough to give that up to Jordan Addison. I think you could make the case that maybe he deserves to stay in, and maybe Jordan Addison's the 3 or the 4 for a while. I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't know how far he falls down the depth chart and how, his injuries to both ankles affect his return.
Mm-hmm.
But man, Jalen Naylor has looked really good, and when called upon, he's there and he's open and he makes the catches, and he's got at least 2 touchdowns.
3. He scored a touchdown in every game so far.
Yeah. Jalen Naylor, offensive game ball for me.
Yeah, I like it. And to all that point, I think it just takes the pressure off of making sure Addison comes back as fast as possible. You kind of get a little bit of time to be like, hey, not that we don't need Jordan Addison, but we don't desperately need him to get on to try and win a game. Yeah. Jalen Naylor is stepping in and doing well.
There's no urgency for him or TJ Hawkinson really to come back. Like the offense is managed pretty well without him. When we get them back, it's just going to be gravy. It's going to be cherry on top. It's going to be awesome.
Hopefully it doesn't like muddle the mojo of what's going on. But yeah, I can't imagine it would. I think it can only be good.
I think KOC is a phenomenal game caller, and when he gets those weapons back in his arsenal, he'll know exactly how to use them. Mm-hmm. He'll figure it out. He'll make it happen. All right, defensive game ball.
My defensive game ball is not a starter. I'm going to say his name wrong. You can help me and correct me because I think you've got it down. Camus Grugier Hill.
I think it's Grugier.
Grugier?
Yeah.
Camus. We'll go with Camus. Because I'm pretty sure I'm saying that right. He stepped in and started in place of Ivan Pace. First play of the game, yes, it was tipped at the line, but he intercepted a C.J. Stroud pass, which nobody since like last November can say they intercepted a C.J. Stroud pass until, who was it later in the day, Cam Bynum also intercepted a pass from C.J. Stroud. Camus stepped in. I don't think he was wearing the green dot. I think it was Blake Cashman. But in a spot where, maybe you're not as overly prepared to be the one of the starting inside linebackers, stepped in and immediately made a difference. So, and I think he was flying around all game. He definitely knew what he was supposed to be doing. So yeah, he's my defensive game ball.
I'm giving mine to Jonathan Grenard.
All right.
It's hard to argue with 3 sacks.
Against his former team.
Yeah.
Guys and coaches that should know all about this guy and how to defend against him. Yeah.
He got the honor of being interviewed by Ben Lieber after the game. I think if you're selected for that interview, that's kind of a high praise. Former Viking Ben Lieber on the field. And the audio's piped out to the whole stadium for whoever's left. So anyways, 3 sacks. He played a great game. Obviously, he was probably playing with a little bit of a passionate chip on his shoulder to, kind of prove it to his old team. But fun to watch and definitely deserving of a game ball.
Yeah, for sure. And not that it really matters. And I just spent a few minutes earlier in this episode praising former Viking Daniil Hunter, but Jonathan Grenard definitely performed better than Hunter did, which when you get beat 34-7, how many guys can you praise on your team? So, it is nice that our new guy beat out the old guy who is more expensive, and that's a whole nother topic for a whole nother episode. But yeah, I like that.
All right, last one, special teams.
All right, this one is mostly based on one play. Brandon Powell is my special teams game ball. Could easily say Will Reichard. Could easily say I think this is the best game in a while for punter Ryan Wright. His average in that game was like twice as long as his average all last season. Ryan Wright had a good game, but Brandon Powell on one punt return. It was a ball that was obviously the Vikings were receiving. This ball was obviously going to go into the end zone. The Vikings would have had a touchback, but there was at least 1 or 2 Texan defenders that were coming up to potentially down the ball deep inside the 5 and pin the Vikings back. Powell kind of read it, knew what was going on, saw the gunners coming down the field, tried to sell that he was going to catch it a little bit beforehand, but at the last minute he blocked the gunner to make sure that the Texan gunner couldn't catch the ball and down it deep inside the 5. So that's a heads-up play. That's a play that shows you he's well coached and knows the situation, even for a guy that he's a wide receiver and he's not wide receiver 1, 2, 3, or 4. But he knows how to play ball, and he made a difference. That was a difference-making play in the game.
I'm pretty sure we were texting at that moment. We'd text through the whole game.
If we're not together.
But we were texting, and you said something about how, man, Brandon Powell just saved us getting the ball at the 1-yard line or something. And I said, yeah, maybe, but he may have also just prevented a opportunity for a 97-yard bomb down the field. So, there's give and take there. But definitely agree with you. That was a heads-up play by Brandon Powell. And it's one of the reasons why I think he's still on this roster. He's very aware of what's going on, and you need guys like that. And I think he's earned his roster spot because of that.
Absolutely.
I'm taking the easy route. I'm going with Will the Thrill.
He earned it.
Will Reichard. He remains perfect on the season, knock on wood. And yeah, I think I saw a tweet today. It might have been Dustin Baker, but the Vikings, obviously watched a lot of players walk out, including Greg Joseph. And it was kind of a comparison of who left and who is now a Viking. Kirk Cousins was on that list, and you gotta think that Kwesi Adolfo-Mensa has earned his keep
so
with
far.
the roster he's built, and maybe earned himself a few more years to stick around as the Vikings general manager, because it's players like Will Reichard that you acquire in the draft that can be a difference maker in your program.
Yeah.
And man, it was fun to watch. He's been fun to watch all season. He's hit every kick he's kicked. He's looked decent on kickoffs, I thought. I think we're still all adjusting to the new kickoff rule. He did get a little bit of a false start, so to speak. On the kickoff. He had to re-kick the kickoff because they weren't ready. I think there might have been the refs were listening in their earpiece for if TV's ready, and I don't think TV was ready, and so he kicked it anyways, and they're like, blow the whistle and plays dead, you got to kick it again. And he did the same thing. I've never
seen that before.
That was weird. The opening kickoff of the second half happened the same way.
Oh, really?
It wasn't the kicker like prematurely kicked, but I forget what happened. But that kickoff had to be re-kicked as well. I think it was the first game I've ever watched where both halves started with a weird re-kick situation. It was kind of odd.
You texted me that.
But anyways.
Will record, great. He was perfect. He has not, like you said, we've both said it many times, through 3 games of his NFL career, he's been perfect. And honestly, outside of one blocked field goal attempt in preseason, he's been perfect throughout preseason as well. I guess I don't know how he's been in practice. Obviously good, otherwise they wouldn't have kept him on the roster. But yeah, and I know he was the first kicker taken in the draft. He was like a 5th round pick, which is pretty high for kickers. But I mean, if he's the guy, if you can solidify your kicker position comfortably for who knows how long. Kickers can play for 20 years if they really want to. Then a 5th round pick is well worth the price, especially since sometimes you take a linebacker in the 5th round. Are they even going to make the team? You know, like you got a kicker. Kicker is an important position, and as Vikings fans, we know how bad that kicking position can screw over games.
Yes. I just found a very practical purpose for socks on the hands while pouring a beer. It picks up any of the dribble. It just soaks it up, kind of like a towel. It's nice.
I have a little bit of a mustache and beard going, and I did notice that I'm like wearing napkins, although I made a critical error. These are not the fuzziest socks in the world, but there's some fuzz to them. And for the last like 15 minutes, I've been fighting. There's like a hair in my mouth, and I can't get it.
No.
It's one of those. If I tried, I'm just gonna put 30 more hairs in my mouth from this.
I'll give you permission to take them off.
No,
if you need to.
No. This is a part of the purple punishments, and I'm hoping maybe I can wash the hair down or something. I don't know, and maybe it's one of my mustache hairs that like won't leave
you need
my
to
face.
Crack that final beer of yours open and get that going for sure.
Yeah. This has been a fun purple punishment so far.
It was a fun game as well. It was fun to watch the Vikings just absolutely beat up on what is a pretty good football team. And I think that can't be understated, the fact that the Vikings have now beaten the 49ers and the Texans.
Back-to-back weeks.
Back-to-back weeks.
I think the only excuse people who are still Vikings naysayers might say is, yeah, well, that was at home both weeks. Which, fair, it is. There is such a thing as home field advantage, and we saw it, and we talked about it earlier with the multiple penalties back-to-back for the Texans, pretty much solely because the stadium was just going insane.
I wish we could have been there. It would have been awesome.
Oh, man. That would have been crazy. I don't think we would have gained our hearing back for a while. But it will be nice to see in the next game, because they're going to Green Bay against a Packers team that somehow has been undefeated since Jordan Love has been out. But yeah, that'll be fun. At least they're playing in Green Bay in the fall and not the winter.
Yes. Agreed. It looks to be pretty nice. So we can transition here while you carefully pour your beer with socks on your hands.
Yep.
Again, a quick reminder, just in case you kind of skipped through and you didn't watch the beginning. We're wearing socks on our hands. We don't do this all the time. This is not normal. In fact, we probably will never do this again because
hopefully
this hasn't been very enjoyable. But we made preseason picks. We both picked the Vikings to lose to the Texans. The Vikings, in fact, did not lose to the Texans. They beat up on the Texans. And so we spun the wheel of purple punishments, and here we are with socks on our hands. That was the punishment for the day.
Yep. Last week it was push-ups. 10 push-ups every time we said the word Vikings.
Yes.
Which was fun as well.
So this is, to me, again, still slightly better than doing 10 push-ups every time you say Vikings.
I agree.
I was sore. Like, my chest was super sore for, like, the whole week.
And I was sick, too. Like, if you listen to that episode 58, you might be able to hear it in my voice, like, oh, yeah, I was dealing with something. After the podcast awards, like, I fought. Like, last week kind of sucked. I was sick. And being a guy that doesn't do push-ups every day, having that little bit of soreness in your upper body, that just made it so much worse.
I just like to think we got a little bit stronger there.
Well, yeah, the Vikings are just they're giving us opportunities to be bigger, faster, stronger.
All right, well, let's transition here to looking ahead to the Vikings. We've already mentioned it. They're going to Lambeau this coming Sunday, September 29th. It's a noon game. You just said it. It's not a winter game, which is nice. Mm-hmm. It's nice to play outdoors in those warmer months so we don't have to worry about the weather affecting the game too much. So that's exciting. Jordan Love looks like he might be coming back.
Yeah, which is crazy. You saw that video a few weeks ago. Everybody did the slow-mo one of him being tackled against the Eagles at the end of the week 1 game, and his knee, like something seemed to pop. So I don't know if there's like a weird, that wasn't actually his knee popping and it was like his knee pad or something going on. But I mean, he's been practicing. It seemed like he was going to be questionable to play even this past week for the Packers against, who are they playing? The Titans?
Titans, yeah.
Ultimately, he didn't play. Malik Willis made the start, and who knew? Malik Willis is actually looking pretty decent. He's pretty mobile. Honestly, yeah, we're Vikings fans, but we can recognize good coaching and good teams when we see it. The Packers are coached very well, and I think that's just what it comes down to and why they've won the last 2 games. I, at this point, would still take the Vikings' overall coaching staff and roster over the Packers, but I'm not predicting a definite blowout win against the Packers. It'll definitely be a game.
I agree, and it's a divisional rivalry. It's one that Vikings and Packers fans look forward to because it's such a competitive rivalry over the years. But yeah, I'm excited to watch it. And I don't know. I still feel like even though Vegas is betting against them right now, against the Vikings, that is, they're currently 2.5-point underdogs going into Lambeau Field on Sunday. I like the Vikings' chances. I think Sam Darnold, if this is his injury is just minor and he's able to kind of work through it, if they're able to get Justin Jefferson's pinky finger figured out, Brian O'Neill, you get him back. Maybe Jordan Addison is fully healthy and able to come back.
Sounds like he has a chance to play this week too.
He might be the biggest question mark of all of those guys. But anyways, I like the Vikings' chances, and I think they can do it.
Yeah. So I guess keys to victory. I think I've already kind of mentioned it. We both kind of danced around it. I think one difficult thing for Flores and his defense is to be fully prepared to play against Love and fully prepared to play against Malik Willis, who, while Love has mobility and he's definitely a well-rounded quarterback, I don't think he's as good as everybody already claims he is, but he's not terrible. Malik Willis has shown his mobility and can change games. I think he had a rushing touchdown and like more than 50 yards rushing last week. He's definitely talented in that area and something you have to plan for. So I think, the key is for the defense to be able to defend effectively against either quarterback.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. And that question mark definitely makes it more challenging throughout the week. Kevin O'Connell is going to have to keep his finger on the pulse there and, see what's happening. I think for the Vikings, it comes down to 2 simple things: score first and win the turnover battle. That's a 2, in case you were wondering. Score first and win the turnover battle. The statistics are overwhelmingly in favor of this Kevin O'Connell-led Vikings team. If they score first, they win the turnover battle, they win the game. Plain and simple.
Yeah, the fun stat that's been going around the last few weeks is, what is he now? 20-0. Kevin O'Connell is 20-0 as a Vikings head coach when they tie or win the turnover battle. And yeah, that's a proven stat right there. There's also another fun one. He's like a little bit worse. He's like 20-8 when his starting quarterback is healthy. So there you go. I think the odds are ever in the Vikings' favor.
And I think the Vikings are such a well-balanced team on both sides of the ball. I was looking at it before these Monday night games take place. We're watching the Monday night games right now. Looks like
Washington's up 28-20 against the Bengals at the end of the third quarter.
Yep, Commanders surprisingly leading, and then the Bills are just mopping the floor with the Jaguars.
Yeah, I haven't seen that score in a while.
But anyways, before the Monday night games, I was just kind of looking at some very basic stats. The Vikings are second in the league in points allowed, behind the Steelers, I believe.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
And they're second in the league in points scored behind the Saints. So,
okay.
In terms of point differential, they are near the top of the league. And that's just, again, kind of foreign territory for this Vikings team. Either the defense is really good, but the offense is struggling, or the offense is high powered, but man, they give up a lot of points on defense. To be at the top of the league in both of those categories is saying something. And I think you keep these guys healthy, you keep playing ball the way you've played ball, it's going to be tough to beat the Vikings this year.
Yeah, that's funny. It reminds me of, I think it was O'Connell's first year in 2022. The Vikings, like, famously every week would somehow win, but they were still like negative in the point differential. They had like -2 points after winning like 8 games or something like that at that point in the season. So it is nice to, I mean, points are the second most important stat, the first most being wins, you know? But,
right.
I mean, points equal wins pretty much. So it is nice to see that. And again, that kind of goes into the thing that I've been saying every week now. There hasn't been a Superman. And I think more and more that I say that, you know, we haven't had Darnold throw for 600 yards or Jefferson somehow catch 8 touchdowns, you know, or like Jonathan Gennard, he might be the closest to a Superman we've had with 3 sacks, but nobody's had 4 interceptions, you know, but maybe that means the Superman is the coaching staff. And you just see
good point.
See guys doing their job because the coaching staff haven't prepared. So yeah, that is nice. Hopefully the Vikings this week continue that and score more points than they let get scored on them. And that's kind of what I'm predicting.
So what is your way too early score prediction? It's Monday right now, so they won't play for another 6 days. But what are you thinking?
I think the Packers have shown. I think the whole NFC North has kind of shown that it's not the Vikings at the bottom. The Vikings are definitely towards the top, and then I think it's the Packers, and then the Lions are close, and then a very, very distant fourth is the Bears at this point. But all that to say, the Packers have shown that they're a decent team. Anytime you lose your starting quarterback and you start a guy that's been on the team for a couple of weeks, a la Josh Dobbs last year for the Vikings, that shows that you're a decent team. So I think it'll be close. I have to go with the hot hand. I have to say the Vikings are going to win. I think it's going to be something like 27-24.
Okay, that's fair. I'm going to go slightly lower scoring.
Okay.
Again. I predicted 17-13 Vikings,
something like that,
Vikings over Texans. I thought it was going to be a defensive battle. I'm going to stick with that narrative. I'm going to say 20-17. I think it's close, but I think Vikings pull it out 20-17. Will the thrill continues to be perfect?
Yeah, that would. And I guess my score is 27 points. That's either a couple of field goals made or a missed extra point, but yeah, that definitely still relies on a good performance from Will Reichard. I almost forgot his name because I just wanted to keep going. Will the Thrill. Either way, I think at this point I feel confident. I think it's going to be a good win. Definitely a good game overall, and I don't think if they lose, it's not going to be some blowout. If they lose, it'll be because some unforeseen turnovers or crazy injury or something like that.
Yeah, definitely things that you don't account for in the game plan. Hopefully those don't happen, but it's going to be a fun one to watch.
I was going to bring this up to you. So last week against the Texans? Because the team, the first play was an interception. The Vikings got an interception. Do you think, because every team has a scripted series for their first handful of plays, do you think the Vikings, KOC, after that interception, just went, okay, we're going with that script? Or do you think he kind of called that differently and left the scripted plays for their first actual drive?
Legitimate drive? I don't think he would just stick. I don't think he's the type of coach situationally that's going to stick with the script when you get the ball 1st and 10 at your own, or not your own, the opposing, whatever.
Yeah, I forget where. They were definitely, or something. Yeah.
They were in scoring position. They were already in field goal position after Cruiser Hill was tackled. So, no, I think he immediately went to, all right, red zone offense. Let's call something up. Let's dial something up. And it wasn't that much longer, and we had a touchdown.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, I think that's another mark of a good coach and a good situational coach. I think KOC could probably still work on his timeout usage.
Yeah.
But overall, he's still way better than, knock on wood, way better than Zimmer was at this point in Zimmer's Vikings career.
Yeah, and I think timeout usage comes with comfortability with your quarterback specifically. Like when you call it, it's tough to call defensive timeouts unless you absolutely need them. You want to save them for offense, especially in those like 2-minute scenarios when you're driving at the end of a half. But yeah, I think the more he gets comfortable with Sam Darnold, that'll work itself out too. Because I can't remember if it was the Giants game or the 49ers game, but there were a few head scratchers of timeouts where it's like, what are we doing right now?
Well, remember I was saying, like, they're using up all of this play clock, every play. Like, some of this has to be communication. Like, they can't just be game plan to use up the entire play clock. But so I don't know.
I think as that relationship continues to develop, timeout usage becomes a lot more logical down the road. So
one more random question for you. The talker is starting to bubble up a little bit more. I don't think we're there yet, but people are starting to talk more like, holy cow, what do we do if Sam Darnold is good? Did they try to keep him? Did they try to re-sign him and just say, all right, this is a good chance for J.J. McCarthy to really have a good couple of years on the bench before they need to throw him in? J.J.'s a young guy. I think he's only 22 right now. What do you think? If the Vikings go and Sam Darnold has 4,000 passing yards, 40 touchdowns, like he's kind of on pace to do right now, wins a playoff game or two, I mean, that's a dividing decision for fans.
Well, why don't you share your pot-stirring opinion here? Because you were posting some stuff on our socials this week that got a little bit of attention.
Yeah, I did say before the Texans game, I said, hey, if Sam Darnold and the Vikings go out and beat the Texans, you really got to start thinking about this. I think...
Well, you were more specific than that. You got to start thinking about seeing what you can get for J.J. McCarthy and signing Darnold to a 1 to 2 year extension.
Yeah, well, and the interesting thing, too, is we're watching the Bengals play right now. Sam Darnold is a couple of weeks younger, but he's younger than Joe Burrow. And if he has proven that something has clicked and KOC and Sam Darnold have something going, maybe even more so than what KOC and Kirk Cousins had, the whole goal is to find your quarterback, and it would be tough to let a proven commodity go in the hopes of J.J. McCarthy, who is proven he should be pretty good, but at that point you would theoretically know Sam Darnold is good. Maybe I overshot it by saying you trade away J.J. McCarthy right now, but I think you got to think long and hard and hopefully make the right decision and keep a proven commodity, even if he's expensive, because that's a good problem to have, is an expensive quarterback who is proven to be good.
I think the biggest question mark is, and I'll answer the question in a minute and give my opinion, but I think the biggest question mark is, what would Sam Darnold be worth after a season like this? You know, if he does go on to produce a stat line like you just described, and he does lead the Vikings to, you know, some playoff success, who knows, maybe even the big one, that would be awesome.
Knock on wood.
but you got to ask yourself, what's he worth, right? Because we've had quarterbacks like that. We had Case Keenum, who came in and filled in admirably for Sam Bradford, and what happened to him? He left.
And then what happened after he left? He
didn't do anything
everywhere else.
Yeah, he didn't do anything. But the point is, like, it seemed like the Vikings had figured out something with Case Keenum, and then they let him walk. Now, it was a different general manager. It was a different head coach.
Different quarterback.
Yeah, everything's different, but I think there may have been a price tag on Case Keenum. Like, how am I trying to say this? What are we willing as an organization to pay him to keep him here? Because he just led us to an NFC Championship game, played most of the season in place of an injured Sam Bradford.
Yeah.
I think you've got to ask that question first. I think that has to be answered, and that has to be worked out between O'Connell, Kwesi Adofo-Mensah, and Sam Darnold. Like, hey, this is the number right here. Like, we're all in agreement. This is it. Like, if we're good, and we're going to pay you this. So with all of that as a backdrop, my answer to that question is, if the number isn't so high that you have to sell the farm and you can keep Justin Jefferson. You can keep Christian Darrisaw, who are already under contract anyways. You can keep some of your bigger names. Yeah, sure, maybe there's some attrition. Maybe there's some, smaller contract guys that end up, having to get traded or get cut or whatever. Sure, that happens. It's the NFL. There's stuff like that happens all the time. But I think more than like Kirk Cousins, J.J. McCarthy situation like we were talking about, I think a Sam Darnold, J.J. McCarthy is a better position for the Vikings long term.
Oh, yeah.
Sets them up to do more of like a Green Bay Packers type of thing where it's like, all right, we have the guy for now. We've also got the guy for later who's just redshirting and, getting this experience, watching film with the guy, going to practice, taking all these reps, maybe filling in for him every once in a while if he's a little banged up. I think that's the best possible scenario. Now that's the pie in the sky. That's the like, if everything were to, line up and everything worked out, then, it's all good.
Yeah.
And it rarely ever works out like that in today's NFL. But I think that's where you start. You got to start with Sam Darnold's number. If he leads the Vikings to all this success this year, you start there. And if it's not so egregious, if he's like, yeah, 10 million, 15,
it wouldn't be that
15 million, I know it wouldn't.
I think the number
per year, per season.
Yeah. The number would start at what Baker Mayfield got. And I think it was something like 3 years, $100 million. So you're looking at 35-ish million a year. And if Sam Darnold goes and throws for 3,500 to 4,000 yards, 40 plus touchdowns, a playoff win or two, or oh my goodness, we can't even say that word, the ultimate prize. If he gets the ultimate prize, you sell the farm. Then you give him 50 a year because something has worked. And you do what the Niners did with Trey Lance. Now, Trey Lance is different because he's proven to not be good, and that was a terrible decision. They just got super lucky by having Brock Purdy turn out to be halfway decent. I think as tough as it would be to accept that first-round loss, which it wouldn't even be a loss, J.J. McCarthy would still have trade value, and he would still have value on the roster. But if Sam Darnold proves that he's a guy that figured something out and it's working with KOC and Darnold, you go with the hot hand. And if it's proven, Case Keenum, he was playing hero ball. It was fun. It was exciting. I mean, the Minneapolis Miracle itself was a lob up and let's see what happens. And holy crap, it worked. Keenum was hero ball. He was a gunslinger and it just worked and it was fun. Sam Bradford is methodical. He's playing quarterback. He's not playing OS ball. It's like it seems to be working. The right answer right now is I think we just all have to have an open mind and trust in Kwesi.
We need to stop talking because I'm ready to get these socks off of my hands. So we should definitely wrap things up. I've enjoyed this conversation thoroughly. It's been very good. And I think Sam Darnold is going to continue to be a talker for as long as he's healthy and playing good football for the Vikings. Because it's such a good story. He really struggled with his three former teams, sat the bench. I mean, he was just the backup last year. And so to see him playing well is a lot of fun. To see him really gelling with Kevin O'Connell is a lot of fun. To see the Vikings 3-0 is a lot of fun.
That's just the best. We all get to have fun with this. Whatever happens the rest of the year, we're having fun right now.
We're having so much fun.
More fun than we thought we would have.
So much fun.
Hey, since we're pointing it out, all right, what are your thoughts kind of to wrap up the like Purple Punishments video that we'll have come out separately from this? Was this easier, harder than you expected it would be? Is it as fun? Do you think the viewers will like it? How have you enjoyed this week's Purple Punishment with socks on our hands?
I still hold that it's slightly better than not being able to say Vikings because that's literally all we talk about is the Vikings. And so to be punished by doing 10 push-ups every time you say Vikings was a little ridiculous. But we did it, and we did it in front of people we didn't know, and they didn't judge us for it. They laughed along with us, and it was fun. You still have some push-ups that you got.
I do. That will be in this episode. Maybe it's already been there. I don't know. I'm paying up on those 13 push-ups.
You will pay up on those for sure. It wasn't as hard to grab the mug because we have these ones with the handles, which is nice. If we had the older football mugs,
oh man,
that would have been That would have been a challenge. That would have been a 2-hand job, and it would have been maybe
It would have been a what?
too challenging to successfully complete on. I realize what I said there. We might have to take that out.
Nah, you're all good, man. That's hilarious.
Anyways, yeah, I'm ready to take these off though.
Yeah, but I think we just need to embrace. We had Viking socks on. It's awesome. I think we need to do another muted high five and make sure that we get another drink out of our beer, which maybe this is a good time. We can transition. What are your thoughts on this beer?
Really good.
The Iowa Brewing Company Eagle Amber Lager, which at least the bartender that day said was one of their more popular, higher selling beers.
Yeah, definitely would have this again. Unfortunately, I don't know that they distribute around here because we picked up these cans while we were there on the ground in Cedar Rapids. So if you can get it near you, I would definitely go pick some up. But
absolutely.
Otherwise, if you can make your way to Cedar Rapids, head to downtown Cedar Rapids, head to their brewery. Great vibe, great place to hang out, and some really good beer.
Yeah, I'm glad. And we just kind of found it. We were just kind of walking around.
Well, it's kind of between two different locations that we were between for the Iowa Podcast Awards. And we're like, oh, hey, let's go there.
Yeah, this is almost enough for me to, every time I'm kind of in that area, think, it's just a few minutes. I can hop off the interstate and go grab a 6-pack of something from Iowa Brewing Company. I like their stuff a lot. I would love to have them featured on the podcast some more. So, hey, Iowa Brewing Company, you want to send us some stuff? We'd love to talk it up. But all jokes aside, if you can, definitely give it a try. Everything we tried there that day was phenomenal. And this amber lager it's a solid amber lager. Doesn't do too much, doesn't do too little, and it's perfect. I think the high today was 72. It's perfect amber lager season.
It's fall, man. The temperatures are starting to drop. The leaves are starting to fall off the trees, and football is in full swing, and it's a beautiful thing. I'm excited.
Yeah.
So,
all right, man. I think we hit about everything, didn't we?
Yeah. Check us out wherever you get your podcasts, Spotify, Apple, YouTube.
Yeah.
We're really close to 200 subscribers on YouTube. So if you haven't yet, go ahead and click that subscribe button. We would love it if you would do that. And
we just recently crossed over 300 Twitter followers, or X, however you want to say it, which was really exciting for me. So if you're not following us there. We're also TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, all the fun stuff. So check us out. We have a website, which I have a friend who builds websites who's kind of talking to me over the weekend.
I heard about this. My sister was telling me because you guys were at a wedding together.
His wife, who they're in business together, was like, "Oh, you should totally have a partnership." And he was like, "Okay." So Adam, maybe we'll have to talk. But we either way, we still have a website right now, theskolhop.com. It's pretty fun. We manage that ourselves. If you want to find us, just Google The Skol Hop. You will find us. Somebody bought a shirt off TeePublic.
It wasn't me.
We're on TeePublic.
We sold another shirt. Yes. And it wasn't one of us.
Yeah. So there's another Skol Hop t-shirt running around out there somewhere. So thank you for buying that. You can find us anywhere. And if you reach out to us, we will talk to you. If you tweeted us, we will tweet back at you, all that fun stuff. So email us at theskolhop@gmail.com. Yeah, everything.
And of course, we'll be back next week with another episode. Hopefully, well,
what did you predict?
I can't look it up right now.
Oh man.
Can you look it up?
I think I predicted a win and you predicted a loss.
I know I predicted a loss, so you predicted a win.
Yes.
So this will be the first week where one of us will spin the wheel and the other will not.
Yep.
So one of us will have to suffer the consequences of the purple punishments next week. If the Vikings win, then I will spin the wheel because I predicted that they would lose against the Packers. There you go. Now you got it.
All right, I got it up. Yep. I predicted a Vikings win against the Packers. You predicted a loss. That's verified here. So, one of us for sure is going to be spinning the wheel and doing a punishment solo. So.
Well, we both just revised our picks and said they would win. I revised my pick.
But these are the final ones, our preseason picks. So.
All right. So if the Vikings do in fact win next week at Lambeau Field, I will spin the wheel. If they lose for some reason, hopefully not, you're going to be the victim of the wheel of purple punishment.
That's all right. It'll happen.
All right, I want to get these darn socks off my hands. Check us out wherever you get your podcasts. Make sure you tune in next week, episode 60, by the way, next week.
Nice little milestone episode.
We're continuing to rack up the episodes.
Yeah,
but
man.
until that,
Skol.
Skol. All right, everybody. Austin is going to pay up on the 13 push-ups that he did not complete at the Iowa Podcast Award last week. All right, I'm going to count for you. You ready? Here we go.
Ready. Don't judge my form here.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, halfway there. 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. Nailed it. Skol.
Hey Vikings fans, Evan here from the Skol Hop, and we just wanted to say thank you again so much for listening to the Skol Hop, and we also wanted to take one more opportunity to let you know that this episode of the Skol Hop has been brought to you by Big Top Ventures. If you're considering taking an all-inclusive trip to either Mexico or Jamaica, reach out to our friends at Big Top Ventures at bigtopventuresllc@gmail.com. Once again, that's bigtopventuresllc@gmail.com. You can get the lowest rate possible on several all-inclusive resorts throughout the region. Big Top Ventures. Step right up to your next big adventure. And thanks again for listening to the Skol Hop. Skol.